All right, it's Thursday, October 6th. This is a end of the day SPY recap, and you can see we ended up here with a red day, but more importantly, it was just an inside day relative to yesterday, and it's really 3 days in a row of sideways action or inside action or consolidation. So that means we really have to kind of monitor now for a breakout above or below, and we also look for fake breakouts that might, fail and start to the other end of the range. We'll get into that in a second, but we see some things here that are developing that might, kind of guide us a little bit as to what's sort of getting ready to develop next. First of all, I think there's a jobs number tomorrow morning, so maybe there'll be a little volatility in the pre-market with regard to that number. We'll keep an eye on that, and maybe that's why the market was just hesitant today to go directionally either way. But also, when I go to the monthly chart here, remember I talked about that when I saw that big red month in September, I was definitely expecting at least at some point the low to be taken out. The tricky thing there is we did broaden out below, our target here, so that's why you never know if once you broaden out, is it possible you're going to reverse? But anyway, given this big red bar, I do expect at least the low to be tested. And clearly in the first few days of October, we started green and started up a little bit, but we've only started to the halfway point. So for example, if you had a crystal ball and you could, let's say this is going to be a big red month of October, we still have a long way to go. And this bar eventually is going to be way down here with a red bar follow through from this bar. You would look back on that bar and say, oh, it was just a typical red bar. And then we, didn't get above the halfway point of the prior bar, we moved lower, as a typical trend does. So right now, we're right at the halfway point on this little first move up. So I'm very comfortable with any daily signals starting to try to go short and see if it maybe is the start to turn the open, red, meaning we go below the open of this month, and then in turn, take out the low of last month. So what's developing here, I can comfortably, get ready to go short now if we get that type of opening price action tomorrow below whatever the pre-market range is. Also, I see a gap down here on the daily chart that I've been talking about that I really think, whether we go up or down should be filled. So you have that double combination in play of the breakout down here and filling the gap, and also maybe the start of this monthly bar starting to turn red again. It's going to be, something where you would definitely look to go short tomorrow on a good opening price action. Now, it's possible as I've been talking about, we just fill the gap to the downside and then have like a 2 down, 2 up bar, or it could be some kind of move early that just kind of, fakes out, and then we come up to the halfway point of this range, which means we'll be going to the top of the range. We'll look for that, but for now, I'm comfortable just playing the downside should we get that. Of course, if we get the upside tomorrow, since we're still in this range, we tried to do that today, which I'll get to in a second, that we didn't follow through to give any real signal. But if we get that upside, you try that as well, and I've been talking about how the weekly chart is still nice and green at the moment, even though today was a bit of 3 days isn't a pausing up here. But if we go higher, I still think there's a big gap in the between the low of this bar and the high of this bar, though we might be filling, and I have a green line up there showing where price could be heading up, and if we end up on Friday with a big green bar in some way, then we should get follow through into next week, and there's another target. So at this point, it's going to be interesting to see how the week closes on Friday, but, after some consolidation in here, the breakout is getting, the more tighter and tighter this gets, the stronger a breakout could be one way or the other. So we'll watch for that. Let's say a breakout happens to the downside, we'll play that. We'll see if it just wants to fill in this gap. If it doesn't and just, continues and stays weak all session, should we get a down bar, then keep in mind this monthly chart might be starting to reverse. This weekly chart, if it's, let's say it's a big down day, that could end up, let's say it's down here where we close on Friday, we could have a big shooter looking bar, which would, more than likely show that maybe we're getting a 2 down week. Any 2 down week that forms, like I said, that takes out the open of the month as well. You can feel pretty comfortable you can be taking out, this target down here, which is that monthly low, and probably extending a little further than that. So we'll really watch for, what happens next week to get a feel if we're going to head lower or not. But anyway, 3 days in a row of consolidation. Big, a little bit of an economic number tomorrow morning. We'll see how, that create a little volatility, but sometimes it's fake volatility. For today, just to follow up, because it's really not, I have tons of videos I posted on the trades I took. I actually made money on 3 very quick trades, knowing we were trying to break out of a range. So I went long very early, and I had to break even. Essentially, well, I took a small gain on that. I actually went short on here, looking to see if we break out lower. I took a small gain there, and then I thought that this might be a bit of an aggressive trade to go long right here. And once it kind of just paused, I got out here with a small gain. And you can see we kind of did nothing all day other than kind of at the end work towards the bottom of the range. And that may be the hint that we're heading lower tomorrow. So let's keep that in mind. If you would have been actually trading purely today, you know, that first green bar headed up to the top of the range, but never followed through. So there really was no buy signal there. I was anticipating it early, and I describe in a video why I like to do that. And then the down move, this would have been a valid in the top, in the range to try a short trade today, but you could have easily, you know, hit your target and at the minimum broken even, maybe taken a small gain like I did on that one. Then really there were no other setups on the day. If anything else, we just came up to the midpoint. This rally just took us to the midpoint of that first bar and then rolled over. So you could have tried another short there, but you know you're in a tight range. It's midday, so it's not, even if you miss it, you know, that's fine. There really was no great setups other than possibly this short trade here to see if we break out lower. But anyway, inside day consolidation. Let's kind of keep an eye on all these possibilities and see how things, you know, open tomorrow.